Hey everybody, my name is Jared. I'm a worship pastor up in Northwest Arkansas, and I wanted to do a quick video, which I hope is helpful, of how we set up our Ableton for every week. We're in kind of a special situation where we are a mobile church, so we meet in an elementary school every week here up in Bella Vista, Arkansas, and so our time is super limited in setting up and tearing down. And so I wanted to share kind of how I have Ableton set up each week because we have a really limited band. It's usually just guitar, cajon, and maybe a piano and some vocals. And so Ableton really helps us fill in the gaps that we have on Sunday mornings. And so I wanted to show you how I have it set up each week for kind of quick throwing the set together and having it to where it's all ready in here, so it's ready for me each week. And so I wanted to just kind of break it down and hopefully not make this too long. But so it's kind of an aggressive template here, but I have every song that I've ever done or we do regularly in here. And so this is like a massive template, and it usually takes a little while for it all to load up. So what I would do during the week is I would come in here to my master template, and I would just delete uh, all the songs that we're not doing and make a much smaller one. So if we do 5 songs on a Sunday, I would pare this all down to the 5 songs that we're going to do, just so it doesn't bog down the computer and we don't run into any issues. But let me show you kind of how I have it broken down. I have little subcategories up here that I break down the individual tracks. And so this first section here, I have my clicks and my guides. So we run a click and a guide on most every song, and that just helps just our team be on the same page. Especially if the rehearsal was lacking that week, we weren't able to have rehearsal, I can send out these click and guides and even the tracks for them to practice with, to where on Sunday mornings when we have 30 to 40 minutes to rehearse and sound check in a elementary school cafetorium, it helps to be prepared and ready, because there's always hiccups. So click guide. I have some cues here that I can launch mid song if I need to, like intro verse. I think those all come from Loop Community. I also have a pre-music section here to where it can be my post music too, but as we exit our gathering, I can launch closing music and not have to rely on somebody else to do that. And even the pre-music, I can have it all coming from Ableton if I want to. Sometimes we don't do that, just depending on what the setup is that week and what volunteers we have, but I have it to where I could do everything from the stage if I needed to. Also, which is pretty cool, this is like the same template I used years ago when I was on a different platform in a much larger church, to where we ran our ProPresenter and our light cues from Ableton. We don't do that anymore in the cafetorium, just because we just don't have those resources for Wi-Fi, and our light setup is really limited. So, but with Ableton, you could do anything you really can put your mind to, and running ProPresenter and light cues. There's a ton of YouTube stuff out there that is really helpful in that. But I have that all in this first subcategory here. My second section is pretty much where most of the meat is, where my pad strings loops. I'll route them into an interface, which will give me 8 channels. Right now the interface isn't plugged in, so it's just showing the 2 channels from the computer, but we'll run 8 channels out. So 1 and 2 would be my click and guide, and then I'll run stereo outs. So 3 and 4 will be my pads and loops, 5 and 6 will be my guitar sounds, and then 7 and 8 are going to hold all my low end stuff. And actually recently, in the past 2 weeks, we've actually moved it to just doing like 3 and 4 be all of our high end stuff, and then 5 and 6 would be all of our low end. So we would end up putting all the guitars kind of in this channel of these guys. But this is how I have it broken out. So I have my pad, my pre-pad. This is what's pretty cool and really helpful for us. We don't have like a keys player who can play pads for us. So what I have set up here, and kind of unique to this template, is I have a pre-pad. So I'll show you how that works. Just for instance, so if we do Build My Life, I have a couple different versions here that I put together. But if I'm starting the service with the gathering with Build My Life, I would open up with this pre-pad here that would come in. But what's cool about this is that this pad, I have this reverb on it, so it will decay really, really well. So when I end the song, that pad will just fade off. And so that is huge for us because I don't have that coming from another instrument. So what will happen is I start that click, I start that pre-pad, and then when we actually start the real song, it'll come in together. And that pad is going to be behind the actual song. 3, 4. And then our guides will all come in there. So that pad will stay underneath the entire song. And so when the song actually ends with these tracks, when they fade off, this one's still going to where I can tag a chorus or be a little bit more spontaneous. That's really helpful. And that's why I like the way this is set up opposed to like the other view like this. This just gives me a little more freedom to have that pad in there, so that's really helpful. So that's all in that first stereo section of 3 and 4. All these pads, strings, drums, pianos, all that high-end stuff's going to be in there. And so like I said, the guitars, we recently stuck that in that first 3 and 4 stereo track as well. And honestly, with our setup, we're not super guitar heavy. So because of just the way it is, and do more of like kind of a stripped down all sons and daughters kind of feel with a cajon and acoustic and maybe some violin when we're lucky on that. So really on the guitars, I'll run them really, really low in the mix, but still have them in there, especially if there's ambient guitars. I like to keep that in there, and that fills in that pad section a little bit. Okay, and then finally in that last stereo section, I'll have any kind of low end. So this is where we have a bass section that is super helpful because we don't have anybody playing bass. So any kind of low end is really helpful coming from that, or any kind of beat, things like that will all come from another stereo section. If it be 5 and 6 of that, or 7 and 8, we'll route it that way. You know, it'll show up here where we can route it that way. And then finally, if we're feeling really spicy, I'll have vocals in here, and sometimes we'll add some choir stuff. It'll be really low, but sometimes it's really helpful depending on it. And then you're probably like, what in the world is this? I call it dump. And what I'll do is when I have tracks down in like my multi-track folders, what I'll do is I'll come in. I'm just gonna pick a random one here. So here's Build My Life again. So it has all these tracks in here. I can scroll over and select all of them, and I'll pull them over into here and just drag them. And so instead of it all being mixed up into all these other ones over here, I'll just dump them over here, and then I can organize them. So that's kind of why I have that section. It's kind of helpful because it never will go in right because you have all these breaks and stuff, so you kind of have to, you need to dump it somewhere. Okay, and so that's how we have it set up. I'm gonna switch over to my iPhone and show you how I launch all the stuff on Sunday mornings. And again, there's so many ways to do this, but this is what works for us. And yeah, so let me show you how I launch everything. Okay, here we are. I want to show you how we launch things. So you can do this like in a billion different ways. but this is how I like to do it. Um, I like to launch everything from the front. You know, I know a lot of people use their drummers or maybe their keys player to launch their tracks. I just like to have control over it to where I kind of know where we're gonna go. And so what I do is I use this controller here from Disaster Area, and what I'll set it up to where my pre-pad is on this first one here, and when I actually start the song, I'll hit this one, and I literally just go through it like a set list. So song 3, kind of like that. And over here I have this extinction controller where is my stop button. So let me show you how I set that up. So using, let's use Lion and the Lamb here. And so I'll hit this MIDI button, and this is how I MIDI map it. And so the first one right here is going to be my pre-pad. So I'm coming down here. And then we hit the second part, which is going to be the actual song where all the tracks are. Okay, and then I need to set up my stop button, which is going to be down here. I'm going to hit that guy, and then that's going to come over here. Okay, and that's how I do every song like that. And so I'll come up here, and so if I'm opening up the gathering with Lion and the Lamb, I would countdown clock, pre-pad, yo yo yo, good morning everybody, and then I'm hitting the song even while I'm talking. So that's coming in.
Intro, 2, 3, 4.
You see how that pad goes off? So that kind of gives you an example of how once the song ended, I could actually stop it with that button over there that I mini mapped, and my pad will kind of fade off like that. So that's kind of how we launch things on Sunday mornings. Again, there's many ways to do it, but that is how we like to do it. Well, hey, I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I mean, this really is a trial and error type deal, and this template is it has progressed over the past 8 years of using Ableton, but it has been so helpful in kind of the church plant, mobile church kind of atmosphere of making it just really easy for us to do. Even do bigger things that we wouldn't normally be able to with a smaller band. So that's kind of our situation, and Ableton has really been super helpful, and that's what I love about it, and just its versatility. And there's a ton of options out there of different things you can use. I know Multitracks has an app you can use, and even Loop Community has their Prime app, which is super legit. That can actually be used off an iPad or a computer, but they've really thought through that app really well. And so all these tracks are a mix of me making them myself or ordering them from Multitracks or from Loop Community. So those are really great resources and are really helpful. So if you have any questions, let me know. And I'd be happy to help you all that I can. Okay, thanks.